England versus Scotland. What are you guys telling me about the team itself? The performance, the whole Euros. Did you guys watch the game? Who do you think was the better side? Now look, I watched the game in a bar and I was raging. I was fuming, I was disgusted, I was disappointed. But I wasn't going for Sir Gareth Southgate's head like a lot of people were. Now look, what I did do, I did record a video straight after with my match reaction and all of that. I was editing it today and I deleted it. I decided not to upload the video because I have reevaluated the situation. I have calmed down and I'm more composed. Now, is it Gareth Southgate's fault? Well, let's have a little look at it. England is nowhere. Well, let me tell you about that. Are we nowhere? Or are people overreacting? Because let me tell you something. Yes, it was a poor result. Yes, the performance was very poor. We didn't create anything really in open play. Yes, you could say that he may have messed up a couple of selections in the team. But who were they? And would people have chosen them anyway? Because it's double standards, if you ask me. Because when we played the last game, everyone was waxing lyrical about the midfield of Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice and Mason Mount. Everyone said that's perfect. Everyone was saying the only problems in the team are possibly Mings and the fact that the left back is, we don't have one of our left backs playing. We have Trippier playing at left back. Meanwhile, we have Reece James not playing at right back, and Kyle Walker played very poor. So you know what he did? He brought Reece James in at right back. He brought you dissed them on the video, right? I dissed no, I didn't diss all of them. It was more like, it was kind of like this, but I was a bit more emotional in it. I was a bit more emotional in it, but I realized I was too emotional. And I wasn't speaking with as much clarity as I would have liked. It didn't come across right. It came across a bit narky, a bit bitchy, and it wasn't really the opinion that I wanted to put out, because as you know, our opinions do change a bit as the time goes on. And I'm really, when I looked at the bigger picture, look, what did I say at the beginning of the tournament? I said we're going to somewhat stumble through the group stage, the same way France did when they won the World Cup in 2018. They didn't blitz everyone in the group stage. I mean, do you remember that boring 0-0 draw against Denmark I keep going back to? They basically dribbled their way through that as well and ended up turning it on in the round of 16. And so onward and upward. That's how you win tournaments. I mean, I just feel like what I was annoyed at, and the reason I will defend Sir Gareth Southgate, I don't think his team selection was bad at all. I think there are a couple of changes I would make. I wouldn't play Mings. I think Mings was very, very poor. I don't think he was especially good against Croatia. I don't know what you guys think about Tyrone Mings. Harry Kane, should he be dropped? Should he not? Look, Harry Kane has played absolutely terribly the past two games. And I love Harry Kane. But I'll say it as it is. I'm not sugarcoating this at all. He has played abysmally the past two games. Now, he's been coming deep. He's been doing nothing with the ball from deep. He hasn't been spraying the balls around at all. When he is forward, he's not breaking the lines. He's not starting the press. He's not opening up space for anyone else. And when he gets the ball, his touch hasn't been good enough. He hasn't been quick enough on the ball. And he hasn't been getting into dangerous areas to finish goals or to even create goals for that matter. Harry Kane has not been good enough this tournament, and that's a fact. Now, the problem lies in Gareth Southgate's team selection. Yes, you could call me biased. You should call me biased for saying that I would have wanted Bamford in there. But Bamford offers something different to Kane. All that Calvert-Lewin is a Kane 2.0 with maybe slightly better aerial ability. And maybe he has a little bit more better positioning in the box. But he can't start the press. He can't spread opposition the way Bamford does. And that, therefore, takes pressure off either Rashford or Sterling to do all the running in behind, to do all of the spreading of the opposition, to create space for everyone else. Patrick Bamford will be able to do that. Bamford's a lot more fluid, a lot more dynamic. He just offers us something else. Whether I think he should start above Kane in all the big games, not necessarily. But at least he offers us another option. Whereas DCL I see as too similar to Harry Kane. Having said that, Harry Kane has not performed, and I probably would put Calvert-Lewin in, at least to see what he can do in this last game, because you can't get any worse. Harry Kane has not performed. Like I said, they are very similar though. So whether he's dropped or if he isn't, you do have to look at the fact maybe he's just going through a rough patch of form. Maybe he will turn it up. And if you do get one chance, even if we're not creating and we get one big chance and it is against a France or a Portugal or a Germany, who do you want that chance to fall to? 9 times out of 10, you want it to fall to Harry Kane because he's the one that's going to slot it into the back of the net. So you do have to look at that side of it. But then again, is it worth sacrificing all of the play of the team? Is it worth sacrificing the dynamic movement of the team, making us more rigid, more predictable, just for that one chance that may or may not arise? That's what you have to think about, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Kane should be dropped. Isn't there any alternatives to Kane? Like I said, there's DCL. That's it. He could maybe play Rashford up top, but Rashford, for me, I don't think Rashford is good enough to play up top. I think he's too unfit, and I think he's more of a winger. I feel like he's better off the wing, off the left or right flank, and I wouldn't put him over the other wingers we have. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Grealish, the Greel deal. What did he do when he came on? Look, I know it's not fair on him. He has only had 20 minutes of game time here, 20 minutes of game time there. So I will be being harsh on him by saying that he wasn't good enough, he wasn't effective, and he didn't change the game at all, in my opinion. I feel like Sancho would be a better alternative than him. And you know what? I would start Sancho, Sterling, and Kane, or DCL. Who would you choose out of those two? But the two wingers I definitely choose are Sterling and Sancho. Sterling, I feel like, again, he was one of our best wingers. You can call me biased. You can call me whatever. If you have a different opinion, fair enough. I want to hear it. I want to hear why you thought Sterling was bad. But for me, like I said, he was spreading the opposition, he was starting the press, and he was actually making runs in behind. That was causing danger to the opposition. Again, when we were just whipping in these needless balls, doing nothing with it, Sterling was the one that had a bit of composure. He decided to try and take on 1, 2, 3 men. His dribbling ability is very underrated. He even got taken down for what should have been a penalty. In my opinion, and in the opinion of the game, it should have been a penalty. It was a foul by Robertson, and that's a fact, in my opinion. Well, that doesn't really make any sense. How can it be a fact and an opinion? But factually, it was a penalty. I've seen penalties given for way less than that. So Sterling, I think, warrants his position. Foden, on the other hand, Foden hasn't done much either. He had the good 10 minutes against Croatia, but since then, I mean, he had a couple of nice touches, couple of nice dribbles, but his positional awareness has not been sharp enough for me. He hasn't been spreading them. He hasn't been giving them anything unpredictable to worry about. And he's been too easily read out of games, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think of Foden, but that's what I'd say. And I feel like Sancho at least offers us something different. He's a better dribbler than Foden in terms of cutting in and out and weaving through 3 or 4 people with a fancy bit of flair and the skills. Although I think Foden is a better player overall and will have the better career. Sancho maybe is better suited to this tournament. Maybe he's had a bit more experience. Maybe the fact that he's come into such fine form at the end of the season does help him. Maybe the fact that Foden is playing his first big season, the first season where he's played a lot of minutes, and he's coming to the end of it, and it's a COVID season where he's very tired. Maybe that's affecting him. Maybe he just needs to be rotated for a game. You couldn't go wrong with putting Sancho in my opinion. And that is why I will criticise Gareth Southgate. Although I do love Gareth Southgate, although I do really like him, I will criticise him for the fact that he isn't giving Sancho any game time. He isn't even putting Sancho on the bench. But yet everyone's going to criticise him for not starting Grealish and for not starting him over Sterling, even though Sterling's played better than Foden. Even though Sterling offers something that Grealish and Foden can't. Even though Grealish, Foden and Sancho don't have enough pace to do what Gareth Southgate wants Sterling to do for the team going forward. That is where I'll criticise him. I'll also criticise him for not picking Bamford and giving another option for Kane. I'll also criticise him for constantly picking Tyrone Mings, despite the fact that he is simply not good enough in my opinion. Aside from that, I think any criticism is unwarranted and overreactionary. You know, you're going to lose some games. You're going to draw some games. You're not going to play fantastic every single game on the way to the winning the tournament. It's not how it works. It's about hitting form and hitting momentum at the right time. And that is what I feel we will do. And look, France just drew today against Hungary. Are you seeing French fans flying around the street saying Didier Deschamps out? Hussein Zaham, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. I completely forgot what that means, by the way. And I'm sorry if I did pronounce that there. Thank you very much for coming in the stream. Yura Aji Fajr. I'm not going to try and read that. I'm not going to try and read that. You definitely biased towards Sterling. I know when you have an England shirt with Sterling on the back. Look, I know I'm biased towards Sterling. Of course I'm slightly biased towards Sterling. And if you feel like I'm being biased towards Sterling and that he's not, you know, and that he should be dropped, then like I said, give me a reason why he should be dropped and I'll happily debate it. I'm just saying, I feel like a lot of people have a bias against Sterling and that he's always the fall guy no matter what. I genuinely think, biases aside, I love Foden. I love Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips is my guy. But I'll admit, Calvin Phillips yesterday didn't have a great game, in my opinion. I think he was very poor on the ball. Off the ball, I feel like he didn't really do too much wrong. He was tenacious. He was putting himself about. And he was one of the few players actually fouling them and looking like he was really up for the game. But on the ball, his passing play was very, very poor. So this is not a matter of me being biased to Sterling. Of course, I love the guy, but I'm going to talk the facts of facts. Foden is one of my favourite players as well, and he's been very, very poor. I genuinely think Sterling has played well. I genuinely think he has given us options going forward that the other two won't, in terms of breaking the lines, in terms of his pressing ability. I mean, if you disagree with that, Assalamu alaikum means peace be upon you. Peace be upon you, my brother, whose name? And a few good dribbles that led to nothing. I have to be 2-time in Portugal, France, and Scotland. 2-time in these are your holidays. Damn. See what I mean? This big guy's been everywhere. A few good dribbles that led to nothing. Well, whether they led to nothing or not, one of them should have led to a penalty, in my opinion. Sure, you could say a few of them led to nothing, but at least he's taking people on. At least he's spreading them. It's better than the sideways passing we were doing at times. And he was the only one that was really taking initiative. A lot of people, what I saw, were trying to shirk responsibility. They saw things weren't going well, so the second they got in and around the box, they just try and hoof it into the box from 40, 50 yards because they didn't want to be the fall guy. Then they didn't want to be the one to try and take 3 players on and then mess it up. So what would they do? They'd pass it sideways. They'd lay off responsibility. Sterling, whether he got it wrong sometimes, at least he was taking responsibility. At least he was like, you know what, I'm going to be the man that's going to take the risk to get us a goal. I'm going to be the man to take 2 or 3 players on. And look, Sterling didn't play his best game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he was like a fucking 10 out of 10 performance. Don't get me wrong. I think he played better against Croatia than he did there. But I still don't think he was one of our worst performers. I feel like there are a lot worse performers on the pitch, personally. And I feel like it should be Foden who gets dropped over him, in my personal opinion. And I feel like Sancho should be brought in over Grealish. I don't think Grealish has done enough to warrant a start over Sancho. And you have to remember, Grealish has been injured for a large proportion of the season, coming back only a few games just before the end. Like the Barca style. What do you mean? What do you mean by like the Barca style? What? Just shirking responsibility and crossing it into the box needlessly. Is that the Ronald Koeman philosophy? Agree? Well, yeah. Well, that's. I mean, like I said, if you guys think I'm wrong, you know, I'm happy to hear another opinion on it. But that's just the way. That's the way I see it. I think Declan Rice was decent on the ball defensively. Didn't offer too much going forward. A few sideways passes, but I wouldn't blame it on Gareth Southgate. I don't think this can be blamed on Gareth Southgate. The way we play, you could say maybe he should have set us out with more of an attacking philosophy. But also, what I will say. This was just a regular group stage game to us. This for Scotland is their World Cup final. This is the biggest game they had. They were so up for this. They sent 20,000 fans down to central London just to watch it in pubs and bars around the stadium. That's how massive this game was for them as a nation, as their team. They wanted this more than everything. So we can be clouded by the fact that they managed to get a draw against us, despite the fact they're not a very impressive team. And you could pin that on England. But look, at the end of the day, it was their biggest game. It was a one-off game for us. And those kind of things happen. And like I said, I never thought we were going to dominate everyone going through the tournament. So I'm not too upset about it. I still think that we are in great position to go forward. We've learnt some things. We made some mistakes against Scotland, and we've learnt from them. You don't learn anything from beating someone 5-0. You learn something from a game like this, where we weren't good enough, we didn't create enough, and maybe he needs to change the squad selection up a bit. I don't know what you guys think. That's my opinion, at least. If you guys agree with any of that, you agree Kane should be maybe dropped, you agree that Sterling should be stayed in the side or should be dropped for either Rashford, Sancho, Grealish, or that Foden should be the one making way. As Kai Havertz makes it 3-1. I'm sorry, I am talking here. Let me go back. That was the wrong screen there. Back to the main screen. It's 3-1 to Germany. It's Kai Havertz again. What was I telling you about Kai Havertz? I do see your message the best. I'll get to it in a second. But what was I telling you about Kai Havertz? Barca keep on delivering balls into the boxes, still realizing that no goal will come out of them. Exactly. You know why they do that, though? You know why they do that? Because it's easy. Because there's no pressure. Because if you just whip a ball into the box, guess what? Now it's on whoever's in and around the box to get it. It's no longer your issue. If you try and do something different, if you hold on to it and instead try and take someone on, try and play a different ball that no one's looking at, then you're the one that takes the fall for it. You're the one that gets the stick from the crowd. You're the one that gets the stick from the manager. That's why they do that. Because they're cowards a lot of the time. That's why you need players who aren't scared to lose the ball. Some of the most creative players lose the ball more than anyone else because those are the ones that are making more dangerous passes and they're the ones that are going on more dangerous dribbles. So you're going to lose the ball more than everyone else. Just because you have 100% pass completion doesn't mean anything because all of your passes could have been 3-yard sideways passes. They're easy to make. Whereas someone else could have like a 90% pass completion but be spraying balls 40, 50 yards. And maybe they misplaced 5 out of the 8, but the 3 out of the 8 that weren't misplaced led to a goal-scoring opportunity. So that stats can be misleading in that way. And you've got to have those players that are willing to accept the risk and willing to make mistakes in order to help the team prosper. And that's what I feel England didn't have enough of yesterday. Portugal gets smart here. Portugal, I mean, they're getting absolutely ransacked at the moment. Absolutely destroyed by Germany. Germany all over them like a rash they cannot get rid of. They're going to be down to the pharmacist tomorrow asking for 50 cc's of liquid Sudocrem. But I don't think it's going to do anything because I think the rash is too big. It's gone past the point of no return. It's too big, it's too strong, it's too fierce, and most importantly, it's too venomous.